Let's call a special council agenda meeting to order, please. Everybody stand and recite the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have roll call, please?
Briggs.
Here.
Cavalier. Brecken.
Here.
Watt.
Here.
Hibma. Here. Fisher.
Here. Okay, we have one item on the regular agenda. Ashley, please.
Yes, Your Honor, is a resolution regarding the appointment of Wendy Ault to fill the vacant at-large council member seat.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
We'll take Delane and Clayton.
Second.
Thank you. I guess straight to roll call.
All right. Briggs.
Aye.
Cavalier. Oh, you and I. Brecken.
Aye.
Plot.
Aye.
Hibma. Aye. Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Wendy is appointed.
So again, just so that the public is aware, we will be on standby until the council meeting starts at 5:30. So.
We are adjourned.
It might work out. So, do we have to go through the council? Have to go through the council.
For her. No, now she can, we did the special meeting, so we can swear her in and she can partake in this next meeting. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. It's 5:15.
Exactly.
In order, everyone please stand and recite the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, right off the bat, we're gonna have oath of office.
All right. Repeat after me. I, your first and last name,
I, Wendy Ault,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the city charter
that I will support the city charter
and the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully
and that I will discharge faithfully
the duties of office
the duties of office
of council member
of council member
and in the city of Crookston,
and in the city of Crookston,
the state of Minnesota,
the state of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Yep.
You still have her own. She probably has that.
Settled in, Wendy?
I got it.
All right. Roll call, please.
Briggs,
Here.
Cavalier,
Here.
Bracken,
Here.
Plot,
Here.
Alt,
Here.
Hima,
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Okay, this time for the open forum. If anyone would like to address any issue not already on tonight's agenda, may come to the podium, state your first, last name, and address, please. Hearing nothing from the chambers. Anybody on the phone bridge, please?
Nobody on the phone bridge, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, we have one mayoral proclamation tonight, and we also have a presentation. We will start with the mayoral proclamation. The City of Crookston Mayoral Proclamation to declare August 21st, 2025 as Wildflower Garden Caregivers Appreciation Day. Whereas Crookston Wildflower Garden, located on the edge of downtown Crookston on South Main Street and Highway 75 South, serves as a beautiful park that enhances the beautification of our city. It is a gorgeous garden made for the community to enjoy as a hangout spot or simply look at the different flowers that are growing. And whereas this garden would not be made possible without the continued upkeep from multiple Crookston organizations and community members. Organizations such as the Crookston's Women's Club, who have been actively involved with Wildflower Park from 2005 through 2019. Current Women Club members fondly remember this park being called Lucy's Park. Lucy was a member of the Crookston Garden Club that added the paths through the flower gardens that exist today. And whereas their contributions, including working with city staff to have a cedar tree planted in June of 2007 that is now marked with a decorative fence, the placement of a granite bench in 2009 in commemorations of Leah Cheris, was an avid gardener and a lifelong member of the Crookston Garden Club. And the building and placement of the garden arbor, creating a floral arch in 2010. Whereas community members such as Terry Wolf, as well as Ed and Patty Amiot, help keep the gardens maintained and preserve the valuable community resource. And whereas Terry Wolf is associated with the conservation efforts in Crookston, serving as one of the founders of the Minnesota Prairie Chicken Society and retired area wildlife manager for the DNR. And whereas Ed and Patty Amy are downtown business owners for over 40 years, whom in addition to working the Wildflower Gardens are active in several community organizations. We want to sincerely thank the individuals and community organizations today and in years past for your continued effort to maintain our wildflower garden. Now therefore, I, Mayor Dale Stanbrook, and the City Council do hereby August 21st, 2025 as Wildflower Garden Caretakers Appreciation Day. In testimony whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the City of Crookston, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim August 21st, 2025 as Wild Garden Caregivers Appreciation Day. All right, Ed and Patty.
It's us.
Well, Jerry's not here.
Yeah, I don't know where he is.
Come on up.
Okay.
That Wildflower Garden is a gem of the community.
Thank you.
I go down there a couple times a year and it is really a gorgeous place to hang out.
Right. Right.
We'll go watch it online.
Thank you.
See you Thursday.
Okay, we have a presentation regarding solar and public buildings program for clean energy resource team. And I think this is zooming in. Kind of, yes.
I am. Hi there.
Please.
No, go ahead, Pete.
kilowatts. That's roughly the size of a tennis court. So I was trying to think of, they might for an average city hall, they might take care of, I'm not really sure, 30%, 40%, 50% of your total energy use, something along those lines. 40 kW is the maximum size under this grant program, and it'll cover up to 70% of the cost of a solar array. A 40 kW array, maybe around $120,000 or so, give or take. It'll cover 70% of that. There's no limit to the number of grant applications that any one organization may submit. So you could submit for 1 or 2 or 3 or 10. Sky's the limit. This is a limited opportunity. The state is accepting applications on a first come, first served basis through the middle of November. The reason for that is they want to, in fact, they require cities to apply for an additional federal incentive called elective pay. There's been a tax credit on the books in America for solar for many years, decades. 30% tax credit. So if an individual purchases a solar array or a business purchases a solar array, that entity could take advantage of a 30% tax credit. A few years ago, the federal government said, hey, we recognize that there's a lot of cities out there or faith communities or nonprofits that want to procure renewable energy. And so let's put in what they call elective pay, which essentially says these non-tax-paying entities can tap into the tax credit, the 30% tax credit. That's going away. And the state of Minnesota wants to give out this grant, again, up to 70%, and then is saying, hey, if you're getting this grant, you have to apply for elective pay, which is from the feds, which covers the additional 30%. So that's a little bit of background. Let's see. What else should I tell you? I think that's the high level overview of this grant program, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Did Anna have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I do
Could
actually.
you come up to the podium, please?
So one additional thing that I would have to add to this is that we're looking at doing this at the arena, at the fire hall, and then also at Valley Tech Park. And The arena is in Red Lake Electric, so this does not, it doesn't count for the arena, but for Valley Tech Park and if it were to be done at the fire hall, they are in Otter Tail Power. And so Otter Tail Power also has the POP program, which stands for Publicly Owned Property Solar. And that pays for up to 50%. And so if there were any remaining amounts in that 70 and 30%, if there were any remaining amounts, Otter Tail Power would also be able to stack into that as well. So in those two buildings, you really would be looking at virtually nothing. For the arena, that is in the Red Lake Electric, but I still believe we still wouldn't be looking at any costs there.
Red Lake Electric is not interested in us trying to cut costs or energy use, or they don't want us to do it on the CSC? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, Taylor, you,
They don't have the program.
next.
So I actually met with Red Lake Electric, a representative from there on Friday. They confirmed that the interconnection system is able to connect with solar and that they would be interested or willing to enter into a memorandum of understanding. With this program, a utility is not allowed to say, no, you can't put solar there unless it would have a significant infrastructure cost for them. And that's not the case at the CSC. So they would work with us to put solar there.
But so the difference is they work with us, but there may be a cost to us.
Or we just wouldn't get the benefit.
Yeah, they're just not offering an incentive like Otter Tail.
Yeah.
Right, they don't have that extra incentive. Pete, do you want to go over how they figure the percentage of, like where they come up with how you qualify for the 40% to the 70%?
Oh, well, I'm glad you brought that up, Anna. This grant program used to have a tiered system where some local governments received 40%, some 50, 60, some up to 70. The state has changed that. They said everybody gets 70. So you're good to go on a 70% grant from the state.
So does these panels ever create excess electricity that you could sell back to the power companies?
It's possible. Like I mentioned, there may be times if it's put on a smaller facility where it may be putting power back onto the grid. Probably not very often. And the city would not receive any sort of payment for excess energy put on the grid.
So who does? Anybody, or they just get it free?
But nobody would get it. If they receive this grant, nobody would get it. Nobody would receive any excess payment if there, or any sort of excess payment if there happened to be one. Again, there'd be very few times that you'd be selling back to the grid or putting energy back onto the grid.
I think at the buildings that you're looking at putting them on, I don't think you would be looking at having an excess at any of those buildings.
So what percent, say the hockey arena would a solar, would it supply 100%, or percent of energy would roughly would like the hockey arena have from solar power?
It would be a relatively small percentage for an ice arena that's a big energy consumer. A 40 kW array, this is something that you can pretty easily figure out. A 40 kW array, kilowatt array, will produce 5,000 kilowatt hours per year. And so it would not be that much of a challenge to look at the energy consumption, to look at your energy bills from Otter Tail and pull a year's worth of energy bills, look at how much energy is consumed at the ice arena, for example, and match that up to 50,000 kilowatt hours or 55,000 kilowatt hours that a 40 kW array would produce. My guess is it would be 5%, 10% maybe.
Pete,
So not a ginormous cut in your finances, but a nice savings.
So if we weren't getting the grant from the state of Minnesota, it would be a safe bet to say that it would be many, many years to get your return on the investment if you were to do it yourself, is that correct?
It'd be several years for sure.
Pete, if they were to do it at the arena and then there was another grant opportunity like this to come up, could they apply again and then put another array at the arena again, like put a second one there?
No question about it.
So
you could keep
But
adding
I would
on.
say this grant opportunity is limited to this year. There's no.
these panels would be set up on the ground.
Yeah, I
You're
have,
good.
So how many acres get you 5% electricity for that arena?
so it's about the size of a tennis court, like Pete said. We had, I talked to the mayor about a week ago, and we had Dan Jewell of Solar Bank from Red Lake Falls do a site assessment for us. And it would sit really nicely on the ground to the north, on the northwest corner of the arena there, kind of between the arena and the road, on the north side. And I just spoke with him today. He tried emailing me everything, but he sent it from his phone and no attachments came, so I didn't get it before the meeting. But I should have it within the next couple days from him. And so that's where it would sit there. We'd have to do some more discussions about the fire hall because there's just not a lot of room there.
So is there any issues with climate and snow and stuff like that that causes issues with these solar panels?
No, I think if snow sits on it, it melts
It
off.
just sloughs off.
I guess, it was brought up, I went to their, CERT workshop a few weeks back and, about trying to reduce some energy costs, and I just kind of threw out the CSC or sports arena and, see if anything could be done. Anna got back to me about this grant and I go, well, it's worth looking into. It's, any way to cut some energy use, every little bit helps.
Sure, so what would it look like for the 30% the city would have to come up with?
The city wouldn't have to come up with that 30%. You would get the 30%, you'd get those credits on the direct pay. You would get a 30% credit there. So you'd have 70% paid for from the Minnesota Department of Commerce grant. And then you'd have another 30% from the direct pay credits.
And just to add on to that, if I could for a second, just a quick clarification. That's all correct. You get the 70% grant. The city would have to come up with the remaining 30%, understanding that it would get a rebate essentially from the federal government after you submitted paperwork to the feds at a later point.
So it's virtually free for the city to put these panels up?
So we have to come up with that 30% upfront with the rebate
Yes.
coming after.
And how long does that rebate take to get that? After you do the paperwork? Is it pretty quick or is it?
It depends. We just had a meeting with other local governments on this question. Some cities that filed electronically for the elective pay received it in 6 weeks. The same city filed for some 2023 projects by paper, and they're still waiting on their payment. So I'd say 6 weeks. at a minimum, a month and a half, but it could be longer.
How much is that 30% that we would have to come up with?
So it'd be, they're about 120,000.
You know, that's, if it could happen within a fiscal year, so we don't have to budget for that in a fiscal year, that's a concern we could talk about, but if we could do it within a fiscal year, then a net effect really is zero. For the rebate, for the time you have to pay it, till the rebate comes back.
So are those panels stationary or are they mobile for where they move?
Great question, stationary.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess at this time, you know, the grant application is not costing us nothing.
Right.
So I think we just, you know, move forward with it, see where it lands.
We need to figure out where we put, because we're talking the CSC,
Fire station.
fire station,
Or
Valley
the
Tech, Valley Tech.
tech
Valley
park.
Tech. Valley Tech would help the room.
Yeah.
I mean,
We got room.
You know, and for them to come and do an assessment, that's no cost to us neither. Correct?
Yeah, Solar Bank has been doing it for no cost.
Okay. Any further questions? I think we already had a resolution to move forward with this
Okay, I think.
last.
No, I don't believe we have on this item. We've had geothermal and we had another housing grant proposal, but we haven't had solar.
I think we're moving to add that.
So we can just have a consensus to move forward with it? Did that work at this point?
I believe so.
Taylor, when is the deadline for this grant?
So it's first come, first served, but the application closes November 14th unless all funds are expended before then.
November 14th. And did it just open?
Pete, did it just open at the end of July or August 1st?
It did, correct.
Okay.
So I think we just give a consensus and they keep moving forward with the grant application.
Move forward and
And we can move it on to the next council agenda so we can get a affirmative vote on it, but just as long as council.
Taylor, would you have the grant package ready by the 2nd of September?
I think that's doable. I haven't looked at the actual application, but I believe it's pretty straightforward.
And just a clarification on that, the process is, you select an installer and you can do that either through issuing your own request for proposals or getting 3 bids, or some cities are buying off of the state master contract for solar. And that's appealing too, because the state of Minnesota has pre-qualified vendors for solar. And so either way, you could issue your own RFP, get some quotes, or go through the state master contract. You select an installer, and then they can actually complete the application on your behalf. The application calls for some things that it really only they would know, like what's the estimated production of this 40 kW array, and what modules are you using, and other technology type things that the installer would know.
Yeah.
How long has it taken other communities to submit it, just so she has an idea, if asking to get it done by September 2nd? Is
How long has it taken?
to submit for,
Well, it just opened, so I'm not sure there's been any communities that have submitted as of yet. There's boatloads that are in your exact same boat, so to speak, that are considering this. But I'd say the procurement process probably will take a month or so to select an installer.
So Pete, are you saying we have to sign a contract with an installer before we can submit an application?
I don't know if you have to, I don't think you have to sign a contract. You're not on the hook for anything. But you have to select an installer, and they again will submit the application on your behalf.
Taylor, Dan Jewell is Solar Bank,
Yep.
so he could help you out a lot with the technical support.
Yeah.
And Taylor, just for to expedite items, because it appears that the project, if we're looking at 120,000 for the 30%, the total project would be roughly a $400,000 project.
The total project is 120,000.
Okay, I misunderstood. Okay, because I was concerned there with the 175,000 cap, and I was gonna say to expedite matters, go with the state procured bid or state master contract would expedite matters significantly.
So who is responsible for maintenance, and if anything goes wrong, who pays for that?
That's a great question. Typically, these arrays are under warranty for about 20 years. There's another piece of technology that's a part of the array called an inverter. It's kind of the brains of the operation. It inverts the electricity from DC to AC so that you can use it in your facility. Those are typically under warranty for about 15 years. Those are also the thing that flames out first. So who's responsible if and when something goes awry? That would be the installer that you select. And that's why it's best practice to go with an installer that comes with good recommendations, that has the right certifications and experience, that will get a project done, completed in the way that you want it done.
So after, like that, you said that inverter is more like 15 years, you say, is that correct? Just roughly, I
Correct.
expect you to have the answer now, but what would something like that cost?
Well, if it was under warranty, of course, the inverter itself wouldn't cost anything to be replaced, but you may need to pay like some labor for the company to come out and
So you're saying
swap it out.
the installer would be responsible for all labor
Yeah.
costs? I mean,
Yep.
all the way into the future? So us as a city would never have to pay, even 50 years down the road, would not have to pay any labor cost ever?
The labor costs, they would have,
Or the parts or warranty or anything?
if it's under warranty, you wouldn't need to cover that, but you would need to cover labor costs.
He's talking beyond what,
And
correct?
yeah, beyond warranty, if it's beyond warranty, then you would be responsible for that.
Right, so that's what I'm trying to figure out, like, that part that you mentioned, if it was outside of warranty, how much roughly right now, in today's prices, would that be?
Boy, I really don't know, tell you the truth.
So I mean,
Especially to project it 2 decades from now, that would be tough.
With the rate of advancement with solar right now, I would anticipate that in 20 years, we wouldn't want to repair, we'd probably be looking at replace. Much more efficient over time.
well, the reason for the question is obvious, we don't want to get into a situation where now we have to spend $200,000 for parts when it's outside of warranty to keep it going.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Sure.
Consensus is, move forward with a grant application. Everybody in agreement? Okay. All right. And then or Taylor, you'll work with Dan Jewell to get, I mean, if he's the one that's doing the assessment to see where these panels would work in town here or what?
He's
Yeah.
doing the site assessments, yes.
Yeah, he's sending me the site assessments tomorrow.
Okay. And the only concern you had with the fire hall.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great meeting.
Thank you. Okay. This brings us to the agenda. Does anyone wish?
Sorry. Agenda, yep.
Hmm?
Yep, bring us to the agenda. Yep.
So wait, scribble.
You're good.
Does anyone wish to add anything to tonight's agenda? Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Thank you, Don. Is there a second? Second by Derek, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Brecken,
Aye.
Plot,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye.
Hima,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. This brings us to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from tonight's consent agenda? Can I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So
Make that one.
Sounds like I heard Henry first, and then we'll go with Clayton. Roll call, please.
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Brecken,
Aye.
Plot,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye.
Hima,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. No public hearings, regular agenda. Ashley, please.
Yes, Your Honor, item E.01 is a resolution regarding the approval of the amendment number 2, MnDOT contract 1053917, state project number 60002-76, trunk highway to Crookston ADA Retrofit, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this
So
resolution?
moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Don. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Henry. Discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a fairly boilerplate item. MnDOT has reassigned and made an amendment to the contract for the Highway 2 project and reassigned some additional duties to one of the subcontractors. And as part of the state, because we have a cost share in it, we said they have to notify us, and we have to also approve those changes.
This is regarding what, for sidewalks and the
But it
business?
has to do with ADA measurement, installation, and compliance related to the Highway 2 project. They've expanded the scope of one of the subcontractors, and because that scope expansion requires an amendment to the contract, all parties must also agree to that amendment.
Okay,
Repercussions, if we don't pass it, MnDOT moves forward without us, and the project stops.
gotcha. Further discussion. Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Brecken,
Aye.
Plot,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye.
Hima,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.02 is discussion regarding the pickleball courts, Your Honor.
Okay, this is a discussion item only. I don't know, we start with Scott Butt on this, or I guess they're looking, I guess I wanna know what, where we're moving forward with existing courts. We talked about one up at Ray Eklund Field. We got quite a few members from the pickleball court association, here. We got a lot on our agenda tonight. I mean, we got budget discussion coming up. So I would really, if I'd like to or prefer to just, if any questions or answers or whatever coming from the pickleball community, I would like to just have one representative if that's possible. Okay.
I guess,
this is,
you know, for reference, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I just emailed each of you some photos that Scott took the other day at our existing pickleball, just to show the condition.
They're also in the packet too. as well.
They're in the bottom of the packet.
I didn't, were they color or black and white?
They're colored.
Okay.
I guess, Mr. Mayor, I can start off with, you know, you have one of two, we have one of two choices. We can either resurface the ones that are down there, or we can go up to Eklund where we would gain a court on the slab that's already existing. One of the things that is a benefit of going to Eklund is we have permanent bathrooms there and we have a parking lot. One of the concerns that has been brought to me is that it's very hard to get down to Schuster. The other thing is it's gonna be an easier place to put in lights. As members, people that live down in Schuster know, if we put up the lights and say we go solar, we gotta make sure that there is an off switch or something, otherwise, you know, people that live down there on the park are gonna have lights in their windows all night long. So, I guess what it comes down to is what everybody wants, what everybody feels we can afford.
well, I know that the Pickleball Association, they got some grant dollars and I can't remember the number. I heard they had $17,000, if that's correct, but they didn't know how much was, can't remember how much of that is grant dollars. But if they don't spend it this year, they gotta give it back. Well, I know when they met out night tonight, we had a few from their committee came up and I'm going, you know, with our budget, it was not gonna happen this year.
And right now to get an installer, I have reached out to 4 installers in the state of Minnesota, and not one of them would be available to do it till probably next year.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the ones down in Schuster are asphalt courts?
Yes, they are asphalt. They were originally poured as an asphalt, where
And what's the life expectancy of paint the lines?
what we've always, with tennis courts, what we've always, and you know, this is obviously our first round with pickleball courts. But with tennis courts, we've always set the deadline of 10 years. We've always tried to go 10 years before we resurfaced them. Just because of financial consideration and our budget.
So, and how long ago were these?
These, if I remember right, were built 8 years ago.
Okay,
Were they not repainted pretty recently?
They were repainted last summer.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
so what, I guess, I don't know, what's the issue with the courts now?
Yeah, what is the whole proposal? What is it that they want on these courts?
I guess you'd have to ask them that. I mean, they want them resurfaced and.
Paul, that could come up and talk.
You want to go, Brenda? I'll go through together. Yeah.
Size is the issue.
Shirley Iverson, 129 Mill Street, Crookston, Minnesota. I've spent many hours with Scott talking about pickleball in the last year. I was brought on because I have some expertise of bringing the club into having a name through the Social Security, through the Secretary of State's office and getting an EIN and, just kind of proceeding with having it become more official of a club. We did apply for grants, but we've also done a number of tournaments over the last years to raise the $17,000. Scott and I have chatted about pretty much everything to do with the pickleball courts. He's very well briefed on Schuster Park. He's definitely the local expert of how the decision was made 8 years ago, the shortcomings of them, the bird baths that start to exist in the sink spots of the asphalt, the fact that, the gates were put in, but they were not put in at the south end of the park, the lights, that were to be done. There's a lot of history that Scott has been a part of, and we indeed, when I say hours, we've sat out at CSC for a number of hours. We explored tiles, we've explored resurfacing them. The resurfacing schedule for area communities is every 5 years. We generally look to the Grand Cities clubs. They do them every 5 years. We did also look to the new clubs and the new pickleball courts that are being put in Warren, Perham, Battle Lake just cleared ground for theirs, Detroit Lake. So much like other groups, we have looked to area small communities to see how are you funding them, how are you maintaining them, what is the maintenance schedule, and Scott and I have talked at length about all those details.
So is your preference Schuster or Ray Eklund?
What Scott and I have talked about in the past is actually turning all of Schuster into a pickleball complex, which would mean changing the existing tennis courts to also be able to have pickleball. I'm not sure about the lighting all night, so I think parks are only open like sundown to sunset, but.
Schuster is a park, it's not a sports complex.
Yeah, I think it was built for that, but.
It is a park.
I'm hearing Schuster's not the most ideal place to have the pickleball park at all, so
I think you have some longstanding members that would disagree with that.
I have people that I've spoken to in my ward that would disagree with.
Yeah.
It is kind of
It's a residential, it's not a complex. Eklund is a complex, it's built for that. It's not in a neighborhood. This is completely surrounded by houses.
How about the size of the pickleball courts? Would you have to add?
At Ray Eklund, you'd be able to have 3 courts, but we've also talked to Scott that when we do the tournaments, we are usually using 6 to 8 courts, 9 courts for tournaments. And so we've talked about being able to repaint or to line the tennis courts that are up there so they would be lined for both tennis and for pickleball so that we could continue to have our tournaments that we have annually.
Regulation size?
Is it 40 by 60?
30 by 60 done.
Is it for 30?
What are they now?
That's what the regulation would be, is 30 by 60, and that's what
Compared with the tennis courts?
I can't remember what the tennis court size are. One of the issues that we do have with the tennis courts and putting the pickleball lines on them, then they are no longer able to be used for the section tennis tournament if the high school were to ever need extra tennis courts.
So we couldn't host.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Depending on how many teams there are, and in the
And how many
past,
times a
Schuster has
year.
always been
we have a community to support not just the high school, I guess, is my thought on that. But the thing is, up at Eklund Park, it seems like I'm in support of like having the tennis courts up there already. We got the lights there and make it a multi-use type of situation there. But.
So night to night, I talked to a bunch of you guys about Eklund versus
Probably
Schuster. I think it was you and there was other people, and it did seem that there wasn't quite a consensus where it was, if you had to choose one, which one would it be? And I felt like even within the group, there wasn't a consensus. And I think there is also that, looking at budgeting, if we are to do something, it's going to have to be one way or the other. And I think from the pickleball community, we would need that consensus.
Anytime you have a club, we just represent club members, as everyone will tell you, Henry included. There are a number of people, including children, that play pickleball up there that are not club members. So we're just a small section.
Communities that are putting up these courts and stuff, where are they getting their fundings from?
They have a variety of sources, but they're installed by the city.
All of them, or?
They've also done fundraising, much like our club has done, maybe with a clearer idea of what we were able to get done in the So in 2024, when we were talking to both Jake and Scott, it did seem somewhat realistic that if we came up with 50% of the funds or more, we would be able to resurface the Schuster pickleball courts. That turned not to be true as you went through line items in the budget. So we did fundraising in the attempt to get 50% or more of the total cost of resurfacing them.
Okay, if I could ask a question, if we look at Eklund Park versus as creation of 3 new pickleball courts versus Schuster Park and resurfacing the 2 courts that are there, what are the dollar costs involved in each of those projects?
Well, actually, you might remember you sent me a letter to not have JB Solutions come to give us a bid. So in the spring, we had set
Yes,
up.
because that is a
We had
staff.
set up a resurfacer for the area. He does all of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks. And we just wanted to get an idea. Was it as big as a bread box? Was it as small as a match car? How close were we to the 50%? And we were not able to proceed with that. So without a bid, and maybe Scott's gotten some from the 4 people that he's contacted, but JB Solutions does all of the Grand Cities surfaces, so that's who we thought of.
What I've researched, we're looking at anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 per court, depending on condition of the court.
So do you know when the last time Schuster tennis court was resurfaced?
It's actually due for, it's coming up on its 10 year.
But we wanted to pickleball court for that.
I don't know if there's an active tennis club that raises money for
I
it.
mean, we have a community that, like you said,
Yeah.
people outside of clubs use these things.
Right?
If I look at it here, to me, the tennis court's in worse shape.
The fences are falling down.
Yes.
It's in bad shape. I think that's
I
a
100%
bigger priority.
Scott, are the tennis courts up at Ray Eklund, or do those have asphalt or concrete under them?
The tennis courts have asphalt under them. Where Jake proposed this, I just got a word, was the old skate park that's up there that has a concrete slab. That we would have to do some grinding to get it level, and then you would have a concrete base.
And that would cost $10,000 to $30,000.
Well, then you'd have yours resurfacing and your lines and your painting, so you're probably talking for 3 courts, pretty close to 15 grand a piece.
So 15 times 3.
Yeah,
Plus nets.
well, yeah.
So is that rock concrete up at Ray Eklund?
I just have to, going between the 2 places here. One thing with being down in Schuster, if the wind blows, we can pretty much still play, even with a pretty good wind that's blowing, because we're protected basically 3 sides, other than to the north. If we go up to Highland, or what you call Ray Eklund Park, we're wide open up there. So if you get any kind of a breeze of 20 to 25 miles an hour, we're not gonna be able to play.
Yeah, but it,
We're playing with basically a wiffle ball is what we're playing with.
Ray
The same thing
Eklund,
with the tennis and baseball, wind plays a factor in sports. It's just.
And I understand that, but go play with a wiffle ball. Tennis balls are a little bit heavier than a wiffle ball.
correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but that skate park, that's kind of in the low area of Ray Eklund, on the backside of.
It's on the backside, it would be on the south side closest to the dike. It is a little bit lower, it's right there next to the outlet where the pond
Yeah, right.
for the splash pad.
So
It is a little lower there than, let's say, the softball diamonds and everything. But with the way it was built up, it's built up, so you've got, your concrete is a little bit higher than.
So that is, nothing's been on that concrete at skate park, right?
They had some skate equipment on there, they had some concrete slabs on there they weren't mounted or anything, they were just sitting there.
So that concrete's never been sealed?
No.
So this may be a dumb question. Is it would you get, maybe you can't do it, can you get a longer wear and tear if you stain the concrete versus painting it, or can't that be feasible?
I don't think you can do it for your playing surface.
It's kind of a texturized playing surface.
Because your playing surface is the same as your tennis court.
Gotcha.
So when you put your asphalt down, now you come in with your rubber over the top of it. It's a rubber
Gotcha.
expanding, and then it goes.
I hear you.
As far as, I have no preference either way. I look at it like this. Eklund, in my opinion, yeah, there's some wind there, but there's, like I say, there's bathrooms, there's parking lot. I understand, you know, things wear out. I'm looking at, if we're gonna look at things that we've looked at in the past and we put on the back burner, the lights on the tennis courts and the basketball court at Eklund are down to where they're about a quarter of them are working. They need replaced. We have a light down on the softball field, the pole, that needs replaced. And we've been putting these projects off. So I'm just, you know, I'm looking for which direction you guys wanna go.
As someone that lives over by Ray Eklund and drives over there in the evenings, I do see it being used a lot. So I, you know, if there are items there that need to be replaced, because it is, in the summer, it is very rare do I drive by in the evening that there are not kids or teenagers out there.
Being that there's other things are at Eklund Park,
Yeah.
and if it was to move up there, it would be less time for us maintaining Schuster.
Yeah.
Or be more attended to.
Hi. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Brenda Mack. I don't have a lot to add other than pickleball is really popular in our community, and it's growing and growing, and you see young kids out there with families, you see middle-aged folks out there, and you see older folks out there as well. And it's just getting more and more and more popular. And I know that you have to take a lot of factors into consideration, and there are a lot of nuances to the decision. I think our club just really wants to see pickleball sustained and pickleball thriving in the community.
So is it possible to see what, like, get an estimate on, I mean, I guess sitting here for me right now, I don't know if I'd be okay with putting money down at Schuster, but I could be convinced of putting money in up at Eklund Park. So, that being said, can we get an estimate? And once we get an estimate, see how much the pickleball club would be willing to help with that and just kind of move forward from there.
I can reach out. I've actually, like I said, been reaching out. I've got 2 companies waiting for me to get them a couple of things that I need to get them to do an estimate. Yeah, I can try to get, I will
The
get
reason why
that.
I'm thinking Ray Eklund Park is just as you said, we have the parking, we have the amenities, we have the restrooms and stuff like that. So I mean, I just think we're gonna be able to, anything, it should be up there.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is, are you guys looking for lights in Schuster?
I think our biggest thing we're looking for is an open communication with the Parks
I'm
Director
looking for what are you
and the
asking
Park
for?
Board. Oh, we're not here asking for anything, actually. We came to you when the Park Board was there, Henry, you were standing there. Brenda came over, maybe you weren't at that time, and she gave a flyer.
Do you want lights at Schuster? Is that's my
Well, I
one
think the
direct
main
question.
thing that we're asking for is resurfacing, because at Schuster right now, from our research, the resurfacing needs to happen about every 5 years, and we're at year 8 now. So that's really the biggest priority. And I don't know if it would make sense to look at what's the immediate solution. Maybe the immediate solution is to get Schuster resurfaced for now, and then the longer term plan, look at Ray Eklund. But I think if you were asking specifically about what is absolutely needed at Schuster to help us continue to experience joy and exercise in the community, it would be resurfacing.
So repainting and all of that last year isn't gonna be good?
Correct. I mean, resurfacing is different than repainting.
Well, yes, but I mean, we just redid it, I mean, so we shouldn't have done it last year? Until we resurfaced again?
Scott probably could answer better about that.
It doesn't hurt to, we have the paint on hand, Jake bought the
Yeah.
paint, we have it on hand, it doesn't, we're not out anything right now if we repaint them. But normally, if you're gonna resurface, you know, obviously you repaint. The only thing we'd be out is labor if we go in and repaint them.
So Scott, when's the last time the high school has used the tennis court for overflow?
I wanna say it was a year ago. You know, since the school built their tennis courts, Schuster has been used less. It all depends on the teams, you know, the sizes of the teams that come in for the section final.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud, you know, if we did go move forward with the Ekman, depending on the cost and stuff, and then we had the overflow, when if they wanted to have large tournaments, the tennis courts up there would just fit in pretty nice. How many courts could you fit on the tennis court?
Well, I got 2 tennis courts, so you could put 4 courts.
And then, when the high school did use the tennis court for overflow, how many days was that? Was it a total of?
The section tournament is usually, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it a 3-day?
Yeah, they would not use Schuster Park. I don't think they've ever used it for a section tournament, especially now with the 8 courts up at the high school. They use it only for regular season tournaments, and that would be 2 times a year.
So if let's say we went with Eklund, I mean, it's not getting rid of the ones at Schuster Park, I mean, if anything, that would give you 5 courts.
I think the ones that, you know, Scott to be a better judge of this, but I think that he has brought up to all of us some ongoing safety concerns about the bird bathing approach.
Okay.
So the dips and then the settling of the court compared to the settling of the nets, you'd have to go down and look at it. And then also the entrance.
The number one complaint, or I shouldn't say number one complaint, one of the things that I've heard is that it's hard for people to get down there. Because obviously you're down in a bowl. I actually had somebody ask me.
You know, I've had people say to me that they don't like playing down at Schuster. That play pickleball a lot, and they don't like the area. There's no parking, there's no bathrooms, there's no lights.
And that's why Jake and I went and looked at this old skate park as a place to try and alleviate, you know, some of those issues.
So Scott, additionally down at that Ray Eklund where the skate park is and utilizing that as a pickleball court, is there room to expand for more courts in that area down the road?
Yeah, if you're willing to bring in dirt work and.
Well, that'd be,
I'm locked at 3 right there.
Okay.
How many total pickle courts are down at Schuster right now?
2.
So what if we just got the tennis court ready, just for temporary, we have 4, as you said, we could do that in the meantime until we come up with a better solution. And then maybe eventually we get it off there so the high school could use it and if they needed it down the road, but that would be a good short-term solution for the issues that we're having. Because the surface at the tennis court up there are.
Well, we're talking are you talking the tennis courts at Eklund or the tennis courts at Schuster?
Eklund.
Eklund. Well, we had them on there years ago. Matter of fact, Dylan painted them for me.
Okay.
And the former tennis coach came in and painted over them one year so that they could have the they could have a tournament there.
Say we're beyond that now, we painted them on there and we just got by for now. And then so how much would it cost to paint the lines and use that area is for both right now.
I couldn't give you an estimate without.
I mean, it's gotta be minimum, a lot less than what we're talking right now.
Well, yeah, it would be a lot less to paint your lines.
So would the pickleball association be okay with that as a bridge between to where we wanna get to and to where we're at now?
That's just a point.
I'm just talking, I know we have to vote and everything, but I mean.
I understand, just as a perspective, we are still in a position with the operating budget of needing to cut between 900,000 and 1.2 just to match our budget. So if we move forward with this, then we're going to need to make a decision on something else that's going to.
I'm not even saying we're gonna move forward, I'm just trying to get some numbers.
Well, that's my biggest point, is taking one more step backwards. We don't wanna provide another amenity that we can't take care of. We've had a fiasco with the pool because it wasn't taken care of. We've had major failures at the ice arena because it wasn't taken care of. Why are we gonna, I think it's great, I think we need to do it, but if we can't take care of it and resurface it properly or paint it properly or maintain it, why would we even waste the money?
Well, I agree with you there, I mean.
If we can't take care of what we have.
I thought we're trying to come up with some solutions to figure out if we can even do what they're asking.
Well, they're not asking for anything,
Right.
they just told me that.
Yeah, but.
We'd like to work with Scott. I mean, we'd like to continue working with him to come up with the very best plan. It sounds like it'll be at least a couple years before you would resurface Ray Eklund, and maybe longer, because a lot of the things you just mentioned, they're not going away real soon. You know, you're gonna have recreational budget issues.
If we had some type of a rough number, then that would help you guys to raise some money to help with that was acceptable and try to come up with a plan, I guess.
Yeah.
And the club is very interested in collaborating with the city, and we have folks who are, willing to grant write and look for resources as well. And certainly hearing your concerns about the budget, I see us as collaborating with you on continuing this recreational activity that's really important to a lot of people.
I mean, that's why I was thinking the tennis court. If that's a multi-use tennis court, we're keeping it up regardless. Priority sticking money into it for the tennis court being there. So I mean, what would it hurt if it was a multi-use for pickleball as well?
I would like to see you work with Scott, the club work with Scott and bring us back some more information about this, because I think it's, we're going all over the place and we need to get something in agreement here that we want to do or not do. And we need a proposal for that, so.
I guess we really need, I don't know, I think Ray Eklund, do 3 courts there, or I'd like to know, are we saving any money doing Ray Eklund versus resurfacing the courts down in Sushi?
The best I can do for you is get estimates on both of them.
Let's go that route first, see where we're at.
Together.
We can talk about this through the budget cycle too, but I think that would be the route to go, is get.
Along with those estimates, could you get an estimate on repainting the tennis court as well?
Yeah, I could get that estimate too.
And are you talking about Eklund or Schuster?
Sorry?
Eklund.
Yeah.
And Schuster needs to be completely redone.
Yeah. I mean,
And the thing is, if you did repaint the tennis courts at Eklund and we were able to do it to still get in some fall play, I don't know if that's even possible, but no, okay. So that'll be next year. All right, well, lots more meetings, Scott.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So, kind of figure out where we're going, Scott, direction wise. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
This brings us to reports. Jeff, anything?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as I've met with each of you individually prior to the meeting and in previous weeks. About 2 hours ago, I did get word that a contract was ratified, and as such, I will be submitting my resignation as the city administrator for the city of Crookston. I would like to say that we have a lot of very fine individuals that work for this city. And I'm honored to have been able, and it's been an honor and a privilege to work side by side with each of them in helping move the city forward. It was a tough, very difficult decision. It was very bittersweet, and it is very bittersweet. But I believe that this is in the best interest for my family.
Thank you. Don, anything?
I'd like to give congratulations to the Oxcart Days Committee for the outstanding job they did with all these different kind of things, events and the parade. Thank you very much. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Derek?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Elaine?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Wendy?
I'll second Don's sentiments about the Oxcart Days Committee. It's always the best time of year. Great job.
Thank you. Morgan?
Yes, I'd just like to thank again, as others have said, everyone that did all the hard work and put together Oxcart Days or all the different activities. It was a lot of fun, and I'm tired, and I can't imagine how tired they are for running it, so thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. Henry?
Same with the Oxcart Days, that was so much fun, we were out there almost every day doing stuff. Jeff, I wanna thank you for being here, putting in the work that you have done, I do appreciate it. And I think that there is a pretty good faction of this city that does appreciate the work that you have done, even though a lot of people have not been that great about it. I wanna make sure you know that how much I appreciate the work you put in.
Thank you, sir. I have several letters, printed out letters and emails that have been sent to me by several residents in my desk that I will be keeping, that have been very supportive over the last year.
I just wanna make sure you had that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Clayton?
Oxcart Days was tremendous. Just want to thank the Oxcart Committee. They did a heck of a job. I was one of the participants in the parade. I was just astounded how many people there was. And also the same thing goes with the dance. I think that was probably one of the biggest ones that the Oxcart has ever had. So kudos to everybody that involved and helped get that thing going. Police department and city staff.
Yeah.
So that's all I have. Oh, Jeff, best of luck. Appreciate the time you've been here. Best of luck. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. It's pretty much everything said, just busy couple weeks between night to night, and then they roll into Oxcart. I know we can't do it without the Oxcart committee, we can't do it without city staff, they put in long days, a lot of planning. I'm sure night to night, they're already working on next year's plans. Jeff, I just want to thank you for all that you've done. I think you've been tremendous in trying to get us on the right path with our budget. I hate to see you go. I think there is a lot of support in the community for you, but I wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have. Just a reminder, we have a Ways and Means and a budget meeting coming up shortly. Thank you, everybody. Nothing else come before council. We are adjourned.
fine, I'll get it.
This brings us to the Ways and Means Committee meeting for Monday, August 18th, 2025. We've got one item on the agenda. And it's interviews for Ward 1 council member and 2 applied, Bishop Jensen and Joseph Shostel. Okay, now it's brought council's decision. Do you want to go through since they interviewed not too long ago, you know the history, their interview questions, whatever, do you want to interview them again or just want to move forward and make a recommendation?
I'll make a recommendation, we move forward.
I'd second that.
Further discussion?
So you can't make motions.
Yeah, it's all consensus.
Okay, I was like, we can't make a
I
motion.
agree with that.
Okay, I was like,
Agree
we
with
can't
that.
make a motion, so. So you're saying you would recommend moving,
Forward with one of these 2 candidates to sit on Ward 1. Since I've already interviewed not too long ago, you know, the interview questions and when they were interviewed, so everybody consensus to not interview, or you want to interview again?
Again? I think you can go forward.
Okay,
so do you want me to do roll call so we know that 5 people, majority are okay with this? Because I don't want to move forward on any consensus moving forward until I have 5.
Let's do that.
Okay,
Yeah, let's do it.
alright. Roll call. Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
what? Brecken,
Aye.
Lot,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye.
Hibma,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
okay, consensus moves forward.
So to move forward, you need to deliberate on who you would like.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go first. I'm recommending that we appoint Joseph to Ward 1.
I'll second that.
No second, consensus. We're just gonna go,
So this is,
we're just gonna go around the table and see who wants who.
but I just want to be very cautious with everybody and remind you that, you don't base it on any, again, this is HR related, so just remember when you are
Good person.
stating your reasons, be mindful, please, so.
So just go around the horn here and see who they want to put in this chair, correct?
Yes, if you would like to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, we would get input from each member.
So Don,
Well, I would vote for Dr. Joseph Shostel. He's very qualified and is very interested in being on the council.
Okay. Derek?
I would nominate Bishop at this time.
Elaine?
I'll probably go with Bishop.
I feel relatively unprepared to make this decision, because I didn't get to sit on those interviews.
So
You just
abstain?
abstain?
Maybe for now, yeah, can I?
I'm going to choose Joseph based off of his professionalism and the way he handles himself within the community.
I will also go with Joseph. I feel like he is a pretty level-headed from what I have observed.
Okay.
I also will go with Joseph, because, in the interview, of course, at that time I was in favor of him. And so I still stand by that. Joseph.
So we got 5 for Joseph,
No,
4.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I have 2 for Bishop, and I have
1 abstain.
1 abstained.
I mean,
Welcome back, Wendy.
I mean, I just, get this to move along, I'd be willing to go with the majority on this one. We go with, Joseph, and so we're not deadlocked or anything for,
Another couple weeks.
then we have 5.
So it'd be 5 for Joseph, 1 for Bishop.
Again, this is just a consensus because council will have to make the decision at the next council meeting, which would be September 2nd.
So the consensus is to move Joseph forward. Now, we're not gonna have any second guessing council.
Welcome back.
Never had any second guessing before.
I know, but
Just
just
because you didn't get your 5 doesn't mean there was second guessing.
so.
So it's a consensus of the council to move Joseph forward, correct?
Okay.
We'll go to next. Next.
You need to,
I will close this Ways and Means Committee meeting.
Okay.
Moving on, workshop time.
just one second.
We have council budget workshop for Monday, August 18th, 2025. We got 3 items on the agenda. First, we're gonna have a presentation from AE2S regarding the CIP options. He informed me he's got about 30 slides, we'll go pretty quick, so. No problem, thank you.
Perfect. Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor. I brought Travis McStraw with me tonight. He was one of the individuals with AE2S very responsible for gathering information around the city's utilities. Very knowledgeable, I would say in a short time, he's got to be an expert on everything underground in Crookston, everything at like the street level in Crookston. He's here tonight, he'll hook his computer up. Maybe 30 slides. The focus isn't to go through all of the findings of the CIP. Primarily what a CIP is used for, how to use it, how it can be a humongous tool for you. So once we get hooked up here, we'll get started.
In your presentation, did you go over the upcoming projects for the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes.
We provided those in your council handouts. You know, we probably won't go into each one in detail, like Mike said, it's more just kind of what this CIP will be for you guys and how it'll help going forward.
And for the council's awareness, while they're getting the computer set up, the projects were sized based on conversations with Jeff, myself, and what we felt was something that we could reasonably move forward with over the next 5 to 10 years. I believe the total, and please correct me if I'm wrong, off the top of my head, I believe the total that we had in, beyond useful life infrastructure was about 108 million for the next 10 years for beyond useful life. In this presentation, you're gonna see where it's ranked based on risk factor and others to create higher priorities. That would be about $10 million a year, 10 to 11 million a year in work. And the city's not really in a position to do that, so we're recommending moving towards the higher priority items in smaller chunks of 2 to 4 million in a chunk. Is that a fair enough synopsis of the math involved?
Pretty good. We can sit down now, right? No, it's very good. I think what you're gonna find tonight is this presentation is all about the city of Crookston's appetite. You have a lot of utilities, a lot of infrastructure that's beyond its useful life. It could last another 20 years. Our job is simply to put something together, a tool that you could use to start looking at road condition as well as water, as well as sewer, and then run it alongside your budget, so.
Yeah, so, hopefully, like you said, we can move through this pretty quickly, but at the end, as there's questions, we're happy to discuss too, so. Just kind of an overview for you guys, setting the stage. You're not the only utility that has stuff beyond its useful life. It's pretty common throughout the US right now. It's a problem throughout the whole country. Just to give you some numbers, you can't see them there. I realize screens are a little far away, but drinking water, they estimate there's about 625 billion nationwide in needs for rehab or over the next 25 years. Wastewater, about 690 billion in 20 years. Stormwater, 115 billion, and roads, 2.2 trillion just in the next 10 years. And these are all things that are currently unfunded nationwide. Over 50% in each of these categories are things that are just rehab and replacement. So it's not new roads, it's not new water lines, it's just maintaining the stuff you already have. So Crookston, as a community, right, you guys have kept a pretty stable and steady population for the last 35 years. You know, I know there's some growth-minded aspirations and hopes for this community, but right now, your needs are not growth-based. Your needs are, how do we keep the stuff we have running, right? And so when you're starting to develop one of these CIPs, right, and trying to prioritize what's your most important project, it really comes into play looking at more of something called asset management, right? We just heard a nice discussion that we had right here about parks and rec assets, right? It's the same thing with utilities. It's, all right, we have all this stuff. How do we make sure that we're taking care of it and we're maintaining it and we're budgeting properly to keep our level of service at a healthy level, right? So in short, asset management is making the right decisions at the right times for the right reasons. With this CIP, right, we're trying to get you guys set up to be able to function inside of an asset management cycle. So usually that starts with determining what you have, determining what condition it's in, how do you prioritize what needs to be fixed first, how much will that cost, and then creating a plan that you can actually implement and fund, right? So your CIP is the last bullet there. With this project, we started with the first part, what do you actually own? So we gathered all of the CAD drawings that you guys have. Crookston had a lot of data. A lot of it was in paper format. It was not in digital format. And so we were able to take a lot of that data and put it into a GIS database so that it is all geospatially referenced and in a map, which I'll get to later how it makes it a lot more useful.
I think you should be proud of your public works department too. I mean, a lot of great record keeping through a transition. So we were able to gather a lot of information from the past public works director, the current public works director, and build a pretty interesting tool here. You'll see in a minute.
Yeah. Like all communities, there's going to be some holes in the data. No community keeps perfect records in terms of utility management. And so we were able to fill in some of that missing data. For example, looking when the subdivision was developed and using that as an estimate for when the water line went in, right? So we cleaned up and prepped all your guys' data and got it into a nice and usable format. So the next step, right, we're looking at condition. So I know the city has had some sinkholes occasionally here. Hopefully none as big as this one in Seattle here. 72-inch line that broke in a 60-foot sinkhole. But it's a reminder, right, of like these assets do need to be maintained before consequences happen. So we took a look at roads, water, sewer, and stormwater utilities and assessed their condition. So we looked at the PCI scores or pavement condition scores of all of your roads. Your roads are actually pretty standard shape. You know, you have some that need attention and need replaced. You have some that are brand new, but generally you see, you know, the about half of your roads are kind of middle of their useful life, right? So it's just keeping up and making sure that we stay on top of those. For pipes, the way that we look at survival condition is usually based on what the pipe's made of. So some of you've got some cast iron pipe in your system. Sometimes you have PVC. PVC is going to last longer, so the industry has curves that help us decide what is the lifespan of each pipe. And so we applied this to your system and ended up with these results, and this is in your council packet that we provided, if you can't see the numbers on the screen. But roughly 21% of your drinking water or water lines are past their useful life, meaning technically they probably should have been replaced before now. With that, that's about a $19 million replacement cost if we were to just do it all today, right? For your sanitary sewer collection, about 41% of your system is past its useful life. That totals to about $42 million in replacement costs today. And then your storm sewer, and I'll put an asterisk on this one because storm pipes tend to last well beyond their useful life. But it is also, that system is also really old and needs some maintenance, so.
What, back one section here,
Yeah.
sanitary sewer cast iron, what's the life expectancy of those versus PVC?
So it varies. One of the things that has to do is soil condition. Some soils are more corrosive to metallic pipes and plastic is more resilient to those. One of the curves on here, just to give you a sense of relative, you know, and given in the same conditions, a cast iron pipe, your life expectancy, you know, can be anywhere from 20 to 35 years. PVC, you're looking at like 75 years. And so it's a larger difference. I'll let Mike, if you want to comment any more
No,
on that.
I think you'll see that if you go, let's see, I won't advance, but if you go, like here, go back one. Here what you're seeing is you're seeing that large bar first on the left side of the graph, indicating infrastructure beyond its useful life. That bar kind of comes back again as you travel down the graph. Those are utilities that were recently replaced that will likely come up for replacement 60, 70 years from now, so.
Okay.
Yep, and PVC is typically more common in water than in sanitary. Sanitary systems, we tend to not touch them because they're harder to replace. And so that's why you probably see a lot larger number in sanitary where it's at right now, so. The most overlooked asset in any system is people. I just want you guys to know that we, as Mike said, we worked really closely with all your public works staff, including some that are no longer at the city, to be able to download all of their history and information and operational status so that not only the data that we had, but also their experience of what they actually see every day in the field was brought into this plan.
One other thing I'll say about the people is your public works department is excellent. They've even continued to support this process into the future. One thing we did before the previous transition from public works directors is worked with both of them and the staff of public works to identify areas in the community that were hotspots, if you will. You know, put a dot on a map where you went and replaced a sanitary sewer connection or you had troubles with the water main. And what we found is we had maps with dots that just simply reinforced everything we were seeing. So when we're looking at a part of the community as a great candidate for a project, we're seeing historical issues with that part of town also. So you should be really confident knowing that what we're finding is what they were finding, so.
Yeah, it's kind of that extra validation of not just the data says it, but the people say it too, right? So. This gets us to that next step. So now, obviously, like Jeff said, right, total there's like $100 and some million in things that should be replaced today, supposedly, right? That's not possible, right? There's no way that any community can do that. And so we have to look at what's the most important thing, right? How do I most effectively spend my dollars? I like this quote, without prioritization, you're just another person who is drowning in data, right? The goal, right, is to get us from beyond reactive into that proactive state. Reactive is much more expensive. If you live in the reactive world, you are expensive, right? If you can be proactive and eventually be predictive, you know, and get ahead of the curve, that's where you start to really save dollars. So your CIP, what we did with this is really taking that step into that proactive stage and setting you up to start looking at some of the predictive stuff going forward, so. Prioritization, and we look at it in terms of risk. You know, there's two things we look at. The way I like to describe it, one is what is there, right? So physically, what is the condition of the pipe? So that was the age, that was the things we looked at, right? But there's also another factor that needs to come into play, because it's not just if the pipe's old. If you have an old pipe that just sits under a park and doesn't affect very many people if it breaks, that's not as important as the pipe that's the same age that feeds the hospital, right? And so we have to take that into account too. So we looked at all of your guys' connections, right? We looked at how many connections each pipe affected if it were to break. We looked at the proximity to critical facilities such as schools, fire stations, hospitals. We looked at the size of the pipe, so if there were a water main break, how bad of a repair is it and how much labor and time would it take, right? And then also accessibility for repairs. Is this water line under a DOT highway? And is it a lot more expensive for us to coordinate a project with MnDOT, right? So. And what that ended up with is we ended up with a prioritized map for each utility. So we know what are the first streets we need to replace? What are the first water lines we need to replace? What are the first sewer lines? But when you think about it and how projects are actually done, that's usually not the best way to do things. I think every community at some point has went in and replaced the water line, and the next year the sewer line breaks and they have to tear the road up again and replace the sewer line, right? It's the classic utility management story. And so what we've been doing lately to help communities and what we did with Crookston is we took all of this data and we said, well, really we're looking at corridors, right? Let's look at the utility corridor and let's try to see which ones are the most, get us the most bang for our buck, right? So we look at roads, water mains, sanitary sewer, and storm all together rather than individually. And so what you end up with is you see a corridor, say this corridor's got a high-risk water main, kind of a semi-high-risk street or low condition street, and a medium-risk sewer pipe, right? That should get a higher priority than something that just has a water main that needs to be replaced, right?
We also use this to have discussions with the city. What we're finding in the data is might inform a conversation between us and Public Works to say, do we have something here we need to look a little closer at? A simple discussion gets us to a yes or no usually.
Yeah, and so the next step that we actually did was we took those results and we brought them to the Public Works staff. And we said, all right, here's what the model spit out or the tool spit out, right? You guys tell us if this makes sense. And we got some validation and made some tweaks. But then we also said, okay, what are we gonna do about it, right? What are the action items and how do you guys wanna go about replacement in the way that makes sense for your department, right? So we came up with kind of this flowchart logic of how you would decide, does the whole corridor get replaced? Does just the water line get replaced? You know, what is the most financially efficient and also most productive way to use these dollars, right? And what that ended up with is a list of our capital improvement projects. So the map on the right that you see is kind of the final selected projects that we came up with.
And I think we'll get to this, but the tool, it's not a crystal ball, right? You still have to think a little bit, you know? So there are situations where we've identified a project like Jeff was mentioning. We might think it's 3 blocks of road and wide. The city has a great process for doing what's called a preliminary engineer's report. So your city process is to identify a project and then hire your engineer to really spend as little money as possible up front to really determine if you have an appetite for it. as part of that preliminary engineer's report, we kind of right-size the project, really dive in and we're basing our decisions on actual facts versus just simply the data. The data is getting us to a point where we can have a real discussion, so.
Exactly, yeah. This is your bird's eye view of, this is where you should start looking at projects, right? So. Next, determining how much they'll cost. So with each project, you know, we kind of set ourselves up so that it's pretty streamlined to step into that preliminary engineering report. We provided these cut sheets for each of the project corridors, indicating what needs to be replaced or what we think needs to be replaced. And in some cases, the action that we costed out is actually to camera the sanitary sewer line and see if there's breaks in it, right? Does it need to be replaced or can it just be lined, right? Lining is a much cheaper option than digging it up, right? So, but for each of the project corridors, we selected these. We also looked at projects that may not follow the corridor. So for example, we recently won the grant for the stormwater master plan effort that we're currently undergoing, which will help identify some flooding issues and probably some other projects in the community that can be integrated into the CIP. So some of those that don't fit perfectly in a street corridor, we're also accounted for. The lift stations is another one of those, some of the rehab that needs to be done at the sewer lift stations. Finally, the plan. I have a guy that I work with who loves these little comic strips. It says, before we make our business plan the coming year, let's see how well we stayed on plan last year. We ended up doing nothing that was in our plan, just like every year. Why don't we skip it this year? It would be irrational not to have a plan, right? The goal is that this plan isn't just a wish list, it's actually something that's feasible. We worked very closely with Jeff and Chuck and other public works staff to make sure that we were within budget limits in terms of an appetite to take something on year over year, so that this wasn't something that was really not achievable and just like, yeah, you listed all our problems, but not a real solution, right? There's just a list of the projects. You guys have copies of this. This is kind of the cost breakdown year over year. So yellow is the street cost. It's divided by all of the projects where we broke down the cost based on how it would share potentially across funds. Those aren't final numbers, they're just budget numbers, right? You see here, based on kind of some of the budgetary numbers that we got from your public works staff, there's still wiggle room here to take on those projects that will pop up that aren't on this list. There will be needs that we couldn't predict that weren't in the crystal ball, right? But this gives you a roadmap going forward, right?
And just for the council, if you look at the list of projects in the blue and white sheet, you'll note that there's a low dollar gap in 2027. But then when you go to the bar chart at the end, 27 is high. That's only because the Highway 2 project is not listed in our infrastructure list of projects, but it is something that we're gonna have coming up. So that's why the bar chart at the end shows 27 very high, but there's not an affiliated project in the list for that.
Yeah. And a large part of that project was externally funded as well. So it's more the total project cost, not necessarily exactly what the city's paying, right? So. Lastly, we did deliver with this project a GIS portal. This is something that we've set up so that the public works staff can continue to update this information as they replace lines, as they install new lines, as they find out more information. This makes a CIP a little more living and a lot easier to be able to update these projects, and just sets you up so that the next time you need to relook at what is the priority, the framework is there and it's a lot easier and you're set up for success. So.
I'll just say one more thing about the portal, a case study, if you will, of how we've seen it used really successfully. The city has already invested in your staff in public works and your equipment in public works. So an example that I'll use is a community we represent, Wester Grand Forks, has a similar dashboard and similar equipment and similar training at the public works department level. And what they're able to do is in the field identify a water main break and go out there with their equipment and locate it. And with a phone call can call us and ask us what we're seeing or what would be the consequence of this action over that action. So it really is a living tool. It's a tool that's available they'll use it, I think, every day. So,
Yeah. Just makes it a lot more functional than a piece of paper or a PDF, right? So, you have a plan, now what, right? This is kind of the next step slide of, what you do with this plan and how you use it. So first step is to kind of get consensus on the plan, have a united approach across different departments that you're going to commit to it and work together to fund these projects in a reasonable way. Second, whether you're looking at getting contractors on board for upcoming work, or probably the most important thing is analyzing funding sources and starting to figure out, okay, what can we go out for grant, what needs to be loan funded, what needs to be cash funded to make this the most financially feasible. That's kind of the next step. A big part of that has to do with the preliminary engineering report. So as you decide that you have an appetite for certain projects or you want to know more about them, those PERs are the first step to really figuring out what is the real cost of this, and then how do we fund it, right? And the last one is just commitment to keep the plan updated. I know a lot of communities who do a CIP and 20 years later they haven't done another CIP and they end up where they were before. We heard from residents and others tonight, right? And council members, maintaining and taking care of what you have is hard. It's hard to try to figure out how to spend those dollars wisely. This plan is set up to help you do that. And this is a 10-year window that gets you started. Perfection is the enemy of progress. So just get started with what you have, and this will be a good roadmap forward. And that's all I have. So,
Thank you.
questions we might be able to answer?
A lot of information to absorb.
it is. So
all I see is dollar signs right now.
A lot of work and get the money.
Hopefully manageable dollar signs. If you look at $100 million, where do you even start, right? The idea here is to come up with a tool that you can use to figure out where to start.
Well, you put a lot of investment, a lot of time in this, and I really thank you for that. I think it gives our department heads the tool to work with and to navigate to where we need to be.
I think residents trust data more, knowing that there's something behind it also. Residents are gonna call each of you and say, why is my street in such terrible shape? We need to repair this. And this is a tool you can use to have some of those conversations also, so it's important.
yeah, it's everybody's perspective when they call out for a need can sometimes be narrow, right? And so helping educate and understand, a larger vision of what the needs are, it's powerful. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next we got building official budget discussion.
Yes, Mayor and members of council, I put building in, I know Greg isn't here, however, we've gone over it, and building is one of the shining lights that we have in our budget. With the agreement with ADA now in place, the total expenditures for building are only looking at an increase of 1.92%. Primarily, that's going to be salary. As we honed in over several years of expenses, last year was more of a educated guess, and this year we kind of honed in a little bit more on where items were going to be. Some items were moved around. As an example, Poll 433 for subscriptions and dues increased significantly, 1,250%, but it also came out of community improvement. We moved the GoGov software into a more appropriate account. The revenue over or under expenditures, it's under expended revenue. We ended up with a difference of 85,000. That can be interpreted on that line as the levy impact. And our levy impact from the building department, what we're subsidizing the department, is actually decreasing by just over 13%. So building, and that is primarily due to the increased revenue from ADA and us taking on that additional. Greg and I worked on trying to evaluate how can we utilize some of the downtime to increase revenues with the city. And so he was very proactive in reaching out to several cities in the area, and ADA was in need, and we were able to pull that forward. If anyone has any questions, I can answer them, but the building department budget is fairly straightforward. The only thing that needs to be added yet, and there's just some math calculations, they're offsetting the building permit surcharge and revenue and the building permit surcharge and expenses. Those numbers will match, so it won't change the dollars of the levy obligation, but it'll be a tracking mechanism. We've never tracked that in the past. So we're adding that as a tracking mechanism moving forward.
So the permits and stuff for ADA and stuff like that, all that stuff from ADA will be run out of the office here?
Yes, sir.
You won't have any time over?
There will be very limited time that he'll
other
need to
than
go to
inspections and,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Most of the items that he'll be working with the city of Ada, their public works director is also well versed in building. And so Greg is working on a relationship with him where he can go to any sites with, when possible, with camera, with video, and explain what he's seeing on site so that Greg doesn't have to make that trip. And we've also come to an agreement that if a trip needs to be made, that we'll be consolidating inspection times to minimize that expense.
So I have a couple questions on a few of these. So it's 31-810-4103. It just looks like for zoning and special permits, is that the ADA or what are we expecting? It looks like we're expecting a large revenue increase there.
That is because we've increased our rezoning and special use fees.
Okay.
They were $200 to $250 each, but as a matter of policy, you want to discourage things that are not in alignment with our zoning, because we have zoning for a purpose. So last year, if council will recall, we did increase those fees for rezoning and variances. And that's a portion of where that is showing up.
It's expected, okay. Then for 41-810-0312, the professional fees, my question is just, it looks like currently we're over budget on that. Are we not expecting to do that same?
We're not expecting that. We're researching some of the items that the components of that item.
And then 0353, the printing and advertising, it looks like we had a very large budget which we used and now that's dropped significantly.
Apologies, which line?
41-810-0353.
Printing and
Did we
advertising.
just forget a zero there?
No, actually, we really haven't spent much.
Well, it shows, or am I looking at this wrong? It looks like we've spent what we budgeted.
Let me pull up.
Hey Morgan, where are you looking at right now?
If you
all the way down at the
If you
bottom.
keep scrolling past their presentation,
Okay.
No. Let's see.
All right, I got it now.
That's the current budget, there's a proposed budget, so it doesn't really show this.
I was assuming that the current budget was where we were.
I think that was just what was budgeted for the current budget.
Would that be the 2025 budget?
Yeah, that's what was budgeted, it doesn't mean it's spent.
I know, but if you look at the other numbers, you can see where it differs between that current budget and the 2025 budget. I'm just wondering if we forgot a zero. Or if we significantly are cutting something. I like us significantly cutting something.
We don't have a year-to-date in these sheets. It's,
Yeah,
the current budget is actually
budget,
2024.
Okay.
The current budget is actually the 2024. I apologize, I forgot to
Okay.
correct that from before. 25 is the budget and then the 26 proposed budget.
Okay,
So that's not a year-to-date.
is that something that we'd be able to, or do we have those numbers? I'm not saying we need it right now, but I'm just saying moving forward.
Absolutely.
Others. So we're expecting to cut a couple grand there?
Yes, we didn't really have any legal publication moving forward. We're anticipating with the diminished demand for rezoning and variances that we'll have also, that will commensurately fall.
And then we're expecting workman's comp to drop by about 5,000?
There was a math error
So that's not
in last year.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
This year, because the building official does not, that would be more than, it was basically a decimal point off in the calculation.
Okay.
Because workers' comp was, put in place, it's dollars or cents per hundred. And in the calculation last year, as a parent, and I will own it, but apparently in this year's budget, when I typed the zeros too fast and one of them didn't catch.
Okay.
So that reduction is accurate, and we're anticipating that will be also lower for this year. We'll be significantly below budget in that line item this year.
Okay. And then that subscriptions and dues.
Pardon?
Subscriptions and dues, 41920 0433. Is that, okay, that was, I just wanted to clarify, okay.
Yeah, that's where we moved the GoGov software subscription to.
Okay. And then we're adding hotspots to the cell phone?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, anything else jumping out at you?
If no one has any other questions, we can move over to IT. And at this point, this one gets very complicated, and I will turn over to Joel, because we are subject to things that are outside of our control based on market, corporate mergers, and policy changes with those outside companies. And this will get very technical very quickly, but I have good faith in Joel that he will be able to keep us all in the loop.
I'll do my best.
Which spreadsheet or PDF is
It's just keep going, like the next one after, it's on page 13 and 14.
Okay.
So like the hotspots was under the IT one.
Oh, did I just, okay.
Yeah, 13,
I was
14,
asking
right?
questions in the wrong spot, got it. Wondering why I was talking about IT.
Alright, so what I'd just like to start off and there we go, lost our cord here. Preface here is, I think, when I came in, it was evident that between Zach and Chad, they had done a fantastic job of upgrading the network infrastructure and really bringing the IT department into the 21st century, because it was certainly lagging behind by all accounts. I've heard shoestrings and duct tape mentioned many times in reference to the old setup. One of the things about that though is a lot of those upgrades were done with ARPA funding. And so from day one when I got here and I saw the budget, I recognized that it was gonna be my job to help figure out how to roll some of that into the budget. And the main goal of that is the staff and everyone here with the city has experienced a really good, a lot of good services from the IT department as well as customer service in that time. And all of that was made possible by those network upgrades. So my goal is to look at cost of effective ways of trying to consolidate and simplify. It may not look like that on this budget, but it is certainly the goal. The other thing, we do have a couple things so ARPA funding is a really big emphasis, in finding ways to pay for things now that we no longer really have that funding available going into 2026. We also have, capital improvement hasn't really been addressed because the capital was improved with ARPA funding. So that is something that you'll see in the budget as well. And then lastly, this is the one that Jeff was referring to, Broadcom acquired VMware. VMware is a virtualization platform that allows you to run mini servers on, say, 3 servers or 2 servers. In our case, it's 3. They probably had something like 45% of the market. Every school that I worked at previously, Kentucky here, all of them were using VMware. The issue with that is licensing has gone through the roof. Minimum 3 to 10% increase in licensing. What we paid in 2023 was roughly $7,300 for licensing. That covered 3 years. If we were to renew at that rate, it had already doubled. That level is no longer available. The next level up is $43,000 to maintain what we have. Exigent, who's our third-party partner who helped install all that equipment, does not believe that pricing option will even be available by the end of the year. So regardless, I would be going from $7,300 that was paid for in ARPA funding to roughly $43,000 in additional funds. As Jeff said, it gets a little tricky as far as some of our options here. If you see on my screen, I've updated some of the information that you have in front of you we've been working on this to try to really get the numbers exact. If you see the highlighted text there, particularly in contractual, you'll see that on the spreadsheet that was in the packet. That does go up roughly $30,000. That is mostly moving a couple of items that were contracted items that were in our subscriptions and dues, just moving them over to the contractual side, just so we understand that those cannot be eliminated. And just for myself as well going forward, that those contractual items would stay in those categories. Below that, in the category below that, we have an additional expense there. That is for migration of ERP Pro 9, or what everyone refers to as Encode, to Encode 10. That's been in the works since, I believe, 2024. The first stage of that was get us into software as a service, which just simply meant we no longer housed our financial software. It now is housed by Tyler Technologies on their end. Whenever anyone gets into the finance program, they're using a VPN essentially to get in and log into a server somewhere. That was what they recommended based on the documentation that was left by my predecessors. That was the first step to get to 10. That, based on the email that I just had Friday, it looks like we would be set to start that in January of 2026, completion roughly 8 months later. The cost will be split in half, 25 at the beginning, 25 at the end. As you go down, the other place that really starts to increase is the capital funding. What I believe you have in front of you is 166,000. I've corrected that. What it should be is 162. So it's not that much better, but it's a little bit better. Gotta take the little wins where we can. That is compromised by recommendation from Exigent for us to move away from VMware, and I'll go into that. The other part of that is $50,000 in reserves, as we have to start replacing this equipment going forward. What we don't want to run into, and what my goal has been, is to try to get out of the roller coaster model of our budget each year and try to have a somewhat static budget as years go by. The issue that we're running into this year is we have the VMware acquisition that we're dealing with, and we also are underfunded on capital in the past. So setting money aside so that we don't have to come to you and ask for $100,000 to replace core infrastructure one year, and then another $100,000 the next year, and then another $100,000 the year after that. In theory, if we could start to put some aside, that will definitely take the edge off of it. The $112,000, why that is, and I can kind of go into one of my sheets here. And I didn't want to put lipstick on a pig here for you guys. The numbers are what they are. I wanted you guys to see exactly what I'm seeing, and there's nothing in between it. So if you look on the screen I have up here, what we originally signed up for was VMware vSphere. At the level we signed up with, it was originally $7,300, like I said, and went to $14,400, that's no longer even available. The number we would be at to renew right now is $43,200. They don't believe that's gonna be, it's possible that won't even be an option come March when it's time for us to renew. What's going on here, and I guess I should have explained that a little bit more, and this is easy, you can Google this if you have any questions about it, or you can talk to me, but it's all over the internet. So, because it has affected so many different businesses and companies, and you have to deal with it basically, is kind of what everybody's sort of been being told. VMware, when they were acquired by Broadcom, their business model switched to the top 20%. What they recommend everyone to be in is the VMware Enterprise, and it is a 10x increase. In fact, I think their CEO recently released some information a couple months ago that basically, it kind of as a result, people have been complaining, and he simply said, you just aren't using it right. You didn't know what you were missing by not having all the tools. And so their business model is to go after the top 20%. And they've been losing people left and right, but they realize that it's okay for them, they're still gonna make money. That just means we're kind of the ones left dealing with the issue. The $112,000 that is part of that 166 or the 162 that you see there is a proposal from Exigent. And you can see up on my screen, that breakdown is their licensing would renew at around $36,000. So it's a little bit less than what we would currently renew at VMware with. But we do need new infrastructure. We need new servers. Currently what we have are 3 servers that are mainly where the computing happens. And then we have a device called a NetApp, which is our storage. They did give us a proposal that was lower, but I'll tell you why it's not included. The lower proposal would modify our current equipment to work with this new virtualization platform, Verge.io. The issue with that is it was gonna be $96,000 just to do that. So we're about 16 shy of this proposal. The issue that they don't resolve in that is we are already limited on storage, and we've been limited on storage since our infrastructure was put in place. Some previous requests, there was a previous capital request for about $20,000 that would have purchased a server to allow our backup as a service to exist on that server, and then free up more of our own space. So the reason this one is on here and you don't see the $96,000 one is because that one doesn't really, it resolves the issue, but it adds another problem. We would still be looking for probably $20,000 in addition to that 96. So this 112, the reason that one's up there is because it would give us new servers, and then those servers would then be good for 6-7 years. So it kind of pushes that out a little bit. Front-end investment. What you guys have in your packet is a proposal to pay for all that in January. I have a couple other ideas. What Exigent actually recommended for us is if everything stayed the way it was, they would recommend we renew with VMware. They just say, and like I said, this is, they don't know. There are a lot of things, Broadcom will just not randomly, they'll come out and just basically give ultimatums. They'll cut things out. They'll say certain packages are no longer available. Another issue too is if we renew at that rate, they no longer support VMware directly, and you end up with a third party. And by all accounts, I guess the scuttlebutt has been that has not been awesome. So you get an inferior product essentially at that point for a significant increase in cost. So my second, and we can send this out to you guys. These are things we've been working on. My second proposal sort of accounts for that, but the issue with staying with VMware is we have some other contractual obligations that we took on. Our backup as a service with recovery, early on, we've identified that as a bit of a luxury item. We need backups. We need to be able to pull up we need a backup of our city shares, all that information is on there, as well as our servers. The recovery aspect would allow us during an emergency or some kind of catastrophe, it would allow us to roll over onto Exigence Network near the cities. They did tell us, and I'd already suspected that this was a bit of a luxury item, that we're definitely the smallest client that had that package. So we kind of chalk that up as we have ARPA funding, let's go do it. But it's probably not something that we were gonna be able to sustain. So in the budget that you all see, actually what I had done is there, and we can move over to contractual here. Last year, about $43,000 was set aside for that backup as a service with recovery. So in the proposal you all see, we actually eliminated that, and then we also have a support contract with Exigent, and that allows us to have support for patch updates and on all of our equipment. The reason I'm telling you all these things is Zach and Chad really did have us write it in the right direction. The funding is really the issue. The other issue we have is looking at it from a security standpoint. Our security posture is pretty good. We did a League of Minnesota Cities survey recently, I think back in January, and they told us that ours was the most clear information, and they thought we were in a pretty good place. They identified a few things that we should look at. In light of what's gone on in St. Paul, in light of what's gone on in just a few years ago in Thief River with ransomware attacks, it is something to be mindful of, that we don't want to return to the trend that we had before. And that ultimately was probably underfunding IT. Well, I would say it was definitely underfunding IT at the time. There's been some obvious steady increases with that alongside that ARPA funding, but that's sort of the task and the crossroads we're at. I recognize there's going to be compromises, but we don't want to cut so deep that we make ourselves vulnerable. And that's, to me, it's evident by what happened in St. Paul that is definitely a risk. And if you're not aware of that, they brought in the National Guard due to an attack, a ransomware attack. And the National Guard, I think, just concluded maybe 3 days ago, something like that. So pretty big deal. I think they mostly got Parks and Rec information, like key card scanning and some documentation. So they did not pay, and they posted all that information online. So it's just something to be aware of. But I know I've said a lot. If there's any particular areas you'd like to take a look at and see why those are allocated at that amount, I'm more than happy to answer those questions.
So, I know we've talked about it for a few years, or a couple of years at least, is, the time, the employee, time card system that we currently have versus, I mean, is that not on our radar right now due to everything else we got going on, or?
That originally was, and I believe it was in a previous capital improvement plan, but to my understanding, part of that would be incorporated into Encode 10. Is that my understanding? So I think previously there was something, a significant amount of money requested for that. But Encode solves that problem. Encode 10 does.
And Code 10 starts in January?
Doesn't start, but they would start working on moving us to Encode 10. And what I was told was roughly 8 months that it would take.
So then after we get that, then is it just there for us to use then, and so we don't have to?
It's an additional module. So what we pay currently is around $65,000 for ERP Pro 9. It would stay the same once we move to 10. Give or take, whether we removed some modules this year. We identified 2 or 3 different modules that we weren't utilizing. 2 of them we probably will utilize in the future. That's why the price is still at 65. But this year, our contract, I think, was more like 56. After we removed a few modules. One of them was a permit module. Greg agreed to that after I talked to him about it. He was using it mostly as reference, but he has paper copies of everything. So we pulled reports, we eliminated that module. That's something we will explore going back to in the future as they've expanded that module. But that really comes down to, is it as good as GoGov is currently as far as like what the fire department uses in their permitting as well, or their inspections. So yes, we've tried to eliminate some. going into what we just paid, so there is some savings there for this year, but, yeah, the time card part, yes, that would be incorporated into it. And then we would pay an annual fee of about $65,000 to maintain it. The whole program, the whole finance program, sorry. That would be incorporated in as a module. It would just be,
That is,
brought into
once we
the-
get on that Infotel as a cure plan to get that time card rolling soon after that, or?
I would assume, cause I know that has been a topic that's been brought up, at least through the emails and the documentation I can find. As far as implementing that, I'm not really sure yet. I mean, I haven't seen any documentation on it, but we would definitely move forward with it, given the opportunity, from the IT department perspective anyways, so.
And so this is the lion's share, this is one of the largest increases we've got. Looking at a 38% increase in IT, depending on which path, it will fluctuate to some extent. And again, that is something that over the last couple of months is just coming in view with the buyout that Joel had talked about. Creates another stress point for us to.
What I guess I should follow up with, and I didn't really talk about this, and so that's I apologize with that, but a third proposal that I have on here is what I call a hybrid proposal. It would require some additional funding in 2025. But why I even bring it up is we would try to utilize already budgeted funds to take out a portion of this. One of the benefits would be our backup as a service with recovery is actually a good portion of the backup part of that is included in Burge IO. So that $43,000 we've already got budgeted for this year. The reason we moved pretty quick on this with Exigent and the behind the scenes is because they know that contract's coming up. If we were to use already utilized or our underutilized funds, I suppose, or if we were to move away from that backup as a service with recovery. And then if there is funding in some capacity, I recognize it's like everybody's always asking for money, and there's not some magic money tree. It would allow us to not pay some other services, some licensing fees on a few pieces of our infrastructure that we would no longer be using. There also is the fact that we would have 3 Cisco servers that we could potentially look to try to make some money back on. I don't know that we're gonna get anything substantial. I don't even really wanna mention a number because I don't want anybody to count on it. But there is a market for used equipment. These technically would be under warranty still for 4 years by Cisco. So there may be an appetite for them. But the reason I bring up this more hybrid approach is it does bring down the budget for what we would need for next year, and help us better utilize our already budgeted funds for 2025 to move forward. In my opinion, it's the best option of the 3 that I have. You guys don't see all those unless you're looking at the screen. None of them are fantastic. They're not gonna make anybody super excited. But I'm trying to be as truthful and as forward and get the numbers exact as we can, so that you have those numbers and you can see them and make the best decision.
Is that possible to do this year yet, or?
We've been looking, Joel and I have been looking through and kind of combing through what's been used, what hasn't been used, and we've identified that a significant portion would be available.
So if we could find some of that money this year, that would lower the.
That would lower the impact on next year with that hybrid.
How do we move forward with that? Is that something you bring up in budget meetings in the future, or what if we found that money here?
And it would be rather rapidly to move forward with that.
Is that your recommendation though? Gotta ask.
Yes, I would say that would be my recommendation. Mainly because we're asking for a little bit less, but it also allows us to point those funds that we've already been budgeted to the thing that's gonna get us kind of in the right direction. And Burge IO, based on our conversations, there's other options out there. This is the one Exigent's the most comfortable with. what a lot of it comes down to is your servers and your storage often could be proprietary or at least only service certain virtualization platforms. So you kind of like, once you buy the equipment, you're sort of locked in certain areas. That's why like where they gave us the quote for modifying our equipment to go to Verge.io. That's kind of the boat we're in. It's not just a renewal of a license, it's buying infrastructure to move forward. I personally think trying to utilize what we've already budgeted would be the best option. And some of these things you'll see, I definitely think everybody wants to see their budget come back down to a normal number. But once we pay this fee on, like, say, the ERP Pro going to 10, that would disappear. That's a one-time migration fee. We wouldn't be asking for that again. That's a huge thing there. Our workstation furnishings, those rotate through about 3 years, and then there'll be an absence there in like the 4th year. So there's some definitely, we want to see things come back down at least, or level out and not have as many up and downs. And I do think leveraging this year's funds would be the best option. And a lot of that has to do with timelines for contracts. We technically have VMware till March, but we don't want to wait around till the last minute and then find out, oh, that 43,200 I told you just doubled, or maybe it went up to 50,000 or 60,000. They're telling us, Exigent is telling us, and they are a reseller of the licensing, that's their belief, is that they want to get rid of it by the end of the year. So that would be my recommendation, is that we find some kind of hybrid situation where we try to utilize that funding and hopefully don't go too far over the budget in that process.
So that ain't gonna really, I mean, we're gonna be in dire straits or not moving in future budgets, so.
Say that again?
Are we gonna be in dire straits moving into future budgets, so let's say for 27 if you go this route?
Well, I mean, the other thing to think about, and this is why I'm asking for, it seems like a lot, the reserving of funding is, here, I can pull up a slide I have. I'm not sure if you guys can see it super well back there, but we kind of have a timeline of our current infrastructure on when those would end, or use of those would end. And 2028, 2029, 2030, potentially the year after those, so like maybe 29, 2030, 31, we're gonna have to start replacing equipment. So the idea behind reserving a little bit of funding now would be that it makes each one of those years we ask for a little bit less than what we would be. So I don't foresee some drastic increases. That's the other thing I'd like to get across. Just because the budget numbers have gone up doesn't mean we've really added anything. We're just trying to absorb what is coming down from the ARPA funding. In fact, I would say we identified, we're trying to, I mean, there's definitely different views on whether to deal with vendors a lot and when you don't need something. But we identified a product, Go Ninja, that we were able to integrate probably 3 different pieces of software into at a savings of about $3,000 to $4,000. That doesn't sound like much now, but at the time it was like, sweet, we simplified and consolidated. We brought 3 different things into one platform. That's the goal going forward. We want to try to eliminate overlaps when able, but sometimes overlaps just make your security posture a little bit more impressive, I suppose, or more secure. I mean, we ultimately have to do something. We can't really go on as usual, whether that's just maintaining what we have. It would potentially, I think going ahead with VMware would definitely put us in the place where we don't really know what the future looks like. It's a risk, for sure.
Well, in the past we maintained and we just got in trouble. I mean, we weren't updating.
Right.
When we, cause previous IT directors, with budgets, no, I'm good, his budget never increased.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, new IT guy comes on and holy.
I mean, I just think IT is one of those areas that we just can't.
Right.
Bad things can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see that when I first got on how far behind ages we were and we still are.
Oh, it's the heartbeat of the city,
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I look at IT as we just need to keep up to date as much as we possibly can. And, you know, just go from there, I guess.
I mean, I don't think we wanna use the term plateau, but we are definitely in a place because of what was done previous to us. We're trying to maintain that and then continue to progress. We just, the big thing that I would urge people against is, just in general, just information, is we don't wanna veer off the path of heading in what you guys just described, is trying to slowly continue to climb and get better and better. I mean, that's a little, you know, it is my department but everybody thinks their department's the most important. I'm sure that's kind of your job to figure out the way to, you know, to best represent it. But I do think that, we use the backbone, I mean, of everything everybody does now. We're so reliant on the technology side of things, and this city is not the only place that underfunded IT budgets in the past. Like, that's happened, being in school systems before this, like, school systems have notoriously underfunded, IT budgets. But it's definitely, I do agree, I think we need to continue to maintain, but also to improve on that, that's the
So
goal.
is there anything within your budget that could be like outsourced, that could be to save us money or anything like that, or?
We've had some folks come in, typically from what, I know Zach has talked about this too, typically when you look at like managed services, the prices are usually not awesome. I mean, I don't know that we kind of already are I don't know that that's true. We are the front line, but we do have some support built in, and that's what the support contract with Exigent is. A perfect example that has, when we do patches and things on access points and switches, and that's for security's purposes. Exigent has already done that a million times over, and when they run into issues, they typically already have backups to that issue, and we've experienced that, Bryce and I, on several occasions when we're doing patch updates. They do that twice a year for us with our involvement, and that's pretty key, I would say. Just because otherwise the downtime could increase significantly as we try to troubleshoot and figure out what our options are. So we kind of already have some of that built in, but as far as like managed services where they take over, I don't know, it can get pricey. It'd be something we'd have to look into, but
I mean, I just like to see sometimes, you know, the dollars and cents behind it instead of, you know, just randomly saying, yeah, that's a great idea, but it won't work. But instead of penciling, I'd like to see it penciled out on some of the discussions we have and say, yeah, this doesn't make sense for all the hassle we gotta go through, or vice versa. And say,
right.
You know.
I would definitely say virtualization, which has taken up most of the big increase, is not really something we want to go backwards on. Cause then we have roughly, I don't know, 20 servers or so. And you would be looking at 20 individual machines at that point, drawing power, and virtualization actually allows you to better utilize your resources. You have 2 or 3 devices working in tandem, and you allocate resources based on what's needed. If you bought a bunch of machines, then you only get the resources that are available on that one machine for that particular server and whatever it's running. So we're just in a weird spot where it's definitely disrupted the market when Broadcom bought VMware, so.
So AI is on every topic nowadays. Is there anything within our city that AI can help us and maybe save money down the road that you see any type of
I mean, we've utilized it. I know there's some people that use it like in word processing. As far as like what we could be better utilizing it as, I haven't spent a lot of time on that. Maybe I'm just afraid it would put me out of a job, I don't know, but I definitely will look into that for you, but it probably hasn't been my first.
I've seen the movie Terminator and I've seen the Matrix, and when I read these reports that even now AI is refusing to turn itself off.
Sure.
And it's copying itself, it's kinda scary.
But I mean, I just want you to know that's the type of thinking that gets cities left behind because of it's scary.
Right.
I don't want it to get me out of a job.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, all these other cities are far
Right.
ahead of us because we didn't act on it in the little bits and pieces that we could.
Right. I don't know, like even with Exit, when we talked with them, I just know one of the guys we were talking to recommended or mentioned the other day. He's looking at it for like repetitive tasks still, and I think that's still the number one thing most people look at it for, in most environments is the completion of repetitive tasks. Not letting it start thinking for you, but rather complete tasks in a more efficient manner. It's certainly something we could look into, like maybe it would help us, I don't know.
I mean, is there companies out there that work with cities, you know, it's cutting edge, it's right on the edge of where we're at, but is there cities out there that you know of that is really implementing AI and their inner workings, or could you find out and
Definitely can look into it, I don't know off the top of my head, but I
Yeah.
definitely can look into it.
Because I think it's one of those other areas that, you know, companies that are taking advantage of right away, they're gonna be ahead of other companies that are scared or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
Anything else? So you're recommending the hybrid?
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Okay.
We will make the adjustments and that over our initial draft is about $120,000 savings, so that helps.
Okay. All right, everybody good? We are adjourned, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.